we've got tens of thousands of people watching this channel, Josh, and they want to be enlightened. They want you to pick up a rick in the market.
Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. It's time for our January/December Cheltenham Festival Ante-Post update, where we look back on a few of the big performances and then look ahead to what's to come this weekend before putting on those all-important Ante-Post selections. We were having a chat before we went on today, Andrew, and you said that you've got some ground to make up.
Yeah, I do. I'm off the bridle early doors here. You're cantering ahead, and really I need you to fall probably to have any chance. But we're going to have... The only thing about my book is that we've got a few live wires for the last day, so potentially a few Hail Marys are going to have to be thrown. The likes of Bartonstown lad, Ellie May, right at the end of Friday. And fingers crossed. I just want to try and, scratch my own nose, really, in terms of making... level or maybe making a profit on it. Usually it only takes one of the horse going in at the type of prices we're putting up. So fingers crossed that's the case, and between the two of us we can have a good week. Looking forward to delving into it on this episode of the video, and thank you all so much for your support over the last few weeks. The likes and comments have been really kind. Feels good, feels rewarding, and we're looking forward to really kicking on now for the Cheltenham Festival. But the big talking point this video will be Constitution Hill, who was a 12-length winner of the Tolworth Hurdle. He was visually very impressive. He galloped right through the line. He couldn't have done it any more easier. That being said, you look at the form, it doesn't look incredible. Do you now think it's right that he is 2-1 favourite for the Supreme Novice Hurdle? Yeah, I suppose that the Supreme market's been quite volatile all year, with obviously started off with Kilcrush being at the front of the market, and John Bond kind of was the early pace setter in that regard. As you say, it's very hard to equate the form of all three of them. You can kind of pick slight holes in all of them. Sir Gerard didn't beat much at Leopardstown, John Bond didn't beat much at Newbury, but then beat a decent field at Ascot, and Constitution Hill was sweeping up a typically average Tolworth Hurdle. And it is something that's just at the back of my mind, that the Tolworth does have a rubbish record going on towards the Supreme in recent years. That being said, when you look at the likes of Metier and Fiddler on the Roof, and I see Constitution Hill being kind of compared with those sort of horses, with all due respect, because they're very good trainers, the likes of Harry Fry, Colin Dysart especially, you're not associating them really with Supreme winners. As for Nicky Henderson, can ready one for this type of race, and he does have a similar enough build and kind of way of racing to the Shishkins and Altiors of the world. Fascinating race. He probably does deserve to be just about favourite based off what he's done.
So I did have a look at the last 10 winners of the Tolworth Hurdle. In 2012 it was Captain Conan, he didn't run at Cheltenham. 2013 Melodic Rendezvous didn't run at Cheltenham. 2014 Royal Boy was injured, so didn't run at Cheltenham. 2015 Lammy Surge, he didn't place in the Supreme. 2016 was York Hill, he did win at Cheltenham, but it was the Ballymore, not the Supreme. 2017 was Fiddian's Oscar, he didn't run at Cheltenham. The 2018 Cheltenham Festival was Somerville Boy, he actually did win the Supreme Novice Hurdle, but if you look back at that race, it was probably the worst Supreme out of all of those years. You've got Kalashnikov second, Mengley Khan third, Paloma Blue fourth, Clayman Taken Forgan fifth, and Western Rider sixth. It doesn't add up to one of those top 2 mile Grade 1 novices. Then 2019 we had Elixir de Nuts, he was injured, he didn't run. In 2020 we had Filler on the Roof, he didn't place. In 2021 last year we had Metier, he didn't place. So it is a rubbish record, and you've got to go back to Noland in 2006, who was the last horse before Somerville Boy to win both the Tolworth and the Supreme. So the race doesn't have a good record. I do think it's a good point that you've mentioned that. That being said, I was at the track, I was at Sandown on Saturday, and I was definitely a doubter. I think I've made that clear on the podcast as well. I was firmly in the John Bond camp, and I was blown away. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He couldn't have done it any easier. And the one thing that stuck out for me is I went down to the finish of the race. Sandown's got that really long walk up to the winner's enclosure, and I just walked by him virtually the whole time. The horse didn't break sweat. He could have gone round again. It was ridiculous. It was freakish how easy it looked like that was, and in heavy ground that would have taken some doing. I would be excited about how much more is to come. I think that he's just going to improve and improve and improve. And he's a different horse to John Bond. Many people have said it. John Bond is probably slightly buzzier, and there's no doubt that he's going to go to the Supreme. I also don't doubt at all that Constitution Hill will as well. Nicky Henderson isn't scared of running two top 2 milers in it. You look at Bouvidere and Altior, you look at Spirit Sun and Sprinter Sacra. I think they'll both run in the race. I would still just about be in John Bond's camp, but then again, you look at Sir Gerhard. I can't believe he's actually 11-2. He did nothing wrong in his maiden hurdle. You suspect he'll win at the Dublin Racing Festival fairly easily. It's really fascinating. There would be very little to split all three in my mind, but I'd just be with John Bond. The best thing about it with John Bond and Constitution Hill, one of them will hopefully go down an Arkle route next year, all being well, and the other hopefully can take on Honeysuckle and be a real threat to her in the champion hurdle. But I was blown away. He was very, very good. Watching live and you go, wow, that is a seriously, seriously good horse. From one real high to a bit of a low for Ante-Post punters, this week the talking point was Britzka for the Boodles, the profile, the quiet ride that he was given behind Fil Dor in the Grade 2 over Christmas. And he was disappointing. He was fourth at Fairyhouse. Now, to my knowledge, now he's going to have a wind up and go straight to the Boodles at the Cheltenham Festival. He drifted out to 33s. He's back into 16s now. I think they were contemplating the wind up before the run the other day. I don't think it did him any harm running. I just think he was a bit flat. What did you make of that? And if you had have backed Britzka for the Boodles, I know you hadn't, would you be disappointed? Would you be slightly more deflated?
Yeah, I'd be very disappointed, really. I think there's probably been overreactions in both ways with the way he's gone in the market. Obviously, he was plunged into favouritism, more than likely, because obviously Gavin and David put him up on upping the ante, and he then drifted out to 33s, which was an overreaction. And I think probably punting him back into 16s is now an overreaction as well. He probably should be somewhere in the middle. Look, you know, it's three close runs together. You know, if you're trying to, you know, add a bit of optimism to him, if you have backed him, three close runs, not the end of the world that he didn't win. He was kind of flat all the way, behind the bridle all the way, so it was just a listless run. You can probably put a line through it. That being said, I just sense, I hate to say wise guys, Josh, but he does seem to have that element to him, and the wise guys are clasping at straws here, you know, wanting this horse to be kind of the good thing that everyone wants him to be, and I just don't think he is. I think he's a decent horse, but like, he doesn't jump very well, he can travel a bit behind the bridle. Wouldn't be my idea, the Boodles winner, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, and it'd be interesting to see how Champion Green gets on Monday. I think he's meant to run in the maiden hurdle, the first race. Interestingly, this weekend we've got the Moscow Flyer and also the 2.5 mile novice chase won by Envoi last year. Bob Olinger and Dysart Dynamo are alive, they're well, and Dysart Dynamo is going to run in the Moscow Flyer. It's obviously over 2 miles. You've put him up for the Ballymore. Do you think there's any chance that he could win the Moscow Flyer and still go up in trip, the first time going up in trip to 2.5 in the Ballymore? Or do you think if he does win the Moscow Flyer, he's more likely to take on John Bond, Sir Gerhard, Constitution Hill in the Supreme Novice Hurdle? Real
head scratcher, this one. I keep kind of, obviously I'm trying to take away the fact that I've backed him for a certain race and analyse it kind of, you know, without that weighing on my mind, and it's a hard one. You never know what Willie Mullins is going to do. There's a part of me that wants him to absolutely bolt up on the weekend and then confirm kind of what you feel, that he's a really top horse, but then there's a part of you that wants him to almost squeak in, so they kind of go, well, there's no chance for winning a Supreme, you gotta put him up in trip. I don't know. Usually Willie Mullins adopts the approach that he'll run his horses in the weakest races, and I certainly look at the moment and go, I wouldn't be, like, if I was the owner of Dysart Dynamo, and I know the owner isn't the same owner as any other horse, you know, I wouldn't be queuing up to run in the Supreme against those three horses. As for the Ballymore, who's the favourite? You know, Journey with Me, Ginto, you know, lovely horses, but 3 mile chasers. This horse, Dysart Dynamo, could have heaps more speed than them. And sometimes the Ballymore turns into a speedy race. So I'm still hopeful, but it wouldn't surprise me, and it only takes one little niggle for Sir Gerhard and him to be missing Cheltenham, and Dysart Dynamo will go to the Supreme.
JP's in their Hawaii game. He might be one for a handicap down the line, or he might be decent enough to put it up to Dysart Dynamo at the weekend. It will be interesting to watch, and I suppose I expect him to win. I think the market will expect him to win, but it's how he goes about winning which will be interesting looking down the line. Dusart won today at Leicester, made his chasing debut over 2 miles and 6 furlongs, so I do think my Arkle Ante-Post bet is probably out the water, especially as he didn't look great doing it, and he looked like he just got better as the race went on. So he's probably a 3-miler, may have got that one wrong. But do you think that he could be threatening at the Cheltenham Festival, or is he one for Aintree?
Yeah, he's probably one for Aintree. He looks a little bit backward. It's obviously been quite hard work to get this horse to run races. You know, after that maiden hurdle at Newbury, it took him all the way until Aintree to get another run. It's taken him now another 8 or 9 months to get a chase debut in. As you say, he jumped to his left. Now that's fine going around the likes of Aintree and Cheltenham, but I'd be very shocked if this horse rocked up at Cheltenham, to be honest. He just looks a work in progress, maybe one for the 3-mile Grade 1 novice chase at Aintree.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he did run at the Cheltenham Festival. I'd say he would be one for the 2.5 mile or 3-mile race at Aintree, as you say. Then a few updates before we go on to our bets, our additional Ante-Post bets for the Cheltenham Festival. Unbaton for Willie Mullins and Cheveley Park was very impressive the other day when winning a beginner's chase. I know plenty of people thought he could be maybe a horse that could threaten Galopin de Champs. Could he go to the National Hunt Chase? I think they're definitely thinking the National Hunt Chase unless it is bottomless. And the 2 races that he's likely to run in would be either the Grade 3 3-mile 1 furlong novice chase at Naas on January the 30th, but I think Statler could go there, and then the Grade 2 10-up novice chase on the 20th of February. I think that might be where he's seen, and I do think they're thinking National Hunt Chase with him. The other one would be Gars de Sceaux, who I've put up for the National Hunt Chase. I say he probably won't run. He's getting physio for a back problem that he picked up during his chasing debut, which is why maybe an excuse that he was so disappointing. And then the other one this week, actually tomorrow, is Walking on Air at Huntington, and Nicky Henderson's not kept it a secret that he thinks that there's another superstar after John Bon and Constitution Hill. He keeps talking about we've got plenty of novices yet to come out. I think he could be one of them. I think they think a lot of him, and he might be a horse that's going to be seen to best effect over 2.5 miles rather than the 2 miles that he's running at when you're watching this. So I think over 2.5 miles he might even be good enough to threaten a Ballymore picture in what looks a really open race. So Walking on Air, one to look at Huntington on Thursday. But let's then kick off with our bets for the Cheltenham Festival. We've got some decent books so far. Well, we've got a decent book so far. I'm going to let you kick off first because I know you've got plenty to get through.
Yeah, no, so I've got 3 more to add to the fire here. I kind of need to try and boost the coffers. There's been a few that have unfortunately fell victim to many different things. There's a couple in there that are flying the flag and may have outside chances. So I've got 2 at slightly shorter prices that hopefully will run very well, and one then as kind of a fairly big outside one. Starting off with the Stairs Hurdle, unfortunately the big latest exhibition plan didn't come to fruition in fairly tragic circumstances from last year. And I just thought, I know we discussed the race at length afterwards, I was really impressed with actually how Flooring Porter came out of the race at Christmas time. I thought he came out with an awful lot of credit. I know some people said otherwise, that he hangs a bit, but he does hang a bit. He's a bit of an awkward ride. I think Cheltenham will suit him. I think 3 miles around Cheltenham may suit him better than Classical Dream, personally speaking. He's 6-1 at the moment. It's an open race. But that being said, I'd be awfully shocked if the winner wasn't to come from the first 4 in the market. I think the first 4 are well clear. There's 2 good English horses, 2 good Irish horses. The rest are pretty average. And I think under Danny Mullins, an enterprising ride out in front, he might be taken on by Classical Dream, but I think Cheltenham will suit him that little bit more. And 6-1, I know it's not a massive price to be taken in the middle of January. I do hold my hands up at that, but I've got to have a little bit of an idea of horses that I do genuinely think are going to be bang there, and I can't see this horse being far away.
Interesting. He'd be the one horse in that race that I'd be most fearful with my Champ slip. I would definitely back him to reverse that form of Classical Dream, and I do think the Champ will confirm the form with Time Hill. So interesting. You've picked the other side, the opposition, and I'm not too happy about that. My first one is going to be in a handicap, and that's the Grand Annual, and it's Buddy Rich, who finished 2nd to 3rd time lucky at the start of the season. He's 20-1 for the race. I get the impression, and I got the impression at the start of the season, that Gordon had a bigger plan for this. I mentioned on the last video that Gordon's going to have to find handicap winners at the Cheltenham Festival if he wants to be top trainer, because he doesn't have as many Grade 1 horses, especially in those championship races. And I just think that he jumps well. He clearly has a big day in mind, and Gordon Elliott knows how to train a Grand Annual winner. I think he'll run in the race. I think he'll probably go off something like 6, 8 to 1, and 20 to 1 at the moment is too big. So I'd expect him to have one run before, hopefully go very, very close.
Yeah, moving on to one in the any race market. I was toying with this horse because he's, I think, 16 to 1 for the county hurdle, and I was toying with it, but he's 8 to 1 any race. I did mention him on the previous video. It's El Fabiolo for Willie Mullins and Isaac Swade and Simon Munir. Look, I just think this horse could be a shade above average. My only qualm is that I think he's going to run in the Grade 1 Novice Hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival, and if you put him up for a county hurdle, he'd go and win that race and then suddenly be in the Supreme pitch or something like that. So I am covering my options in case he turns into a Grade 1 horse, in case he's a county hurdle horse, maybe a Martin Pipe horse. He seems to have the world at his feet. He won the exact same maiden hurdle as Envoi did at Tramore on New Year's Day. And I thought what was most interesting was when Willie Mullins had another stablemate horse called Braun win at Naas last week. And when asked about Braun, he couldn't believe he won because he'd worked so badly the week before, until Mullins looked at his notes and saw that Braun had actually been working beside El Fabiolo, who'd obviously galloped this horse into the ground, which is not a bad sign. I think he's a pretty classy animal. An 8 to 1 any race, you're covering a lot of bases there. He'll certainly run at Cheltenham in something and will have a good chance wherever he goes.
Yeah, he looks like he's got plenty of talent. And my second one might come as a bit of surprise. Now, I took a bit of a hit this week because Benaud doesn't go hurdling. So my Triumph Hurdle bet is out of the water. And I was looking around at horses who I wanted to put up. I spoke to Harry Skelton, and he told me that In This World had a bit of a setback. The Adonis, which is where he's meant to run, now looks touch and go, and he could go straight to Cheltenham. I think they're still hopeful that he will run at Cheltenham and will run at Antrim. But as he's had a bit of a setback, I look at down the field, and I'm not really keen on anything, and nothing's come out the woodwork. So I'm going to put up Fil Dor at 3 to 1 to win the Triumph Hurdle, purely because I think he'll just be shorter. I don't think there's anything in there that's going to threaten him. To my knowledge, he goes straight to Cheltenham. He misses the Dublin Racing Festival. I think that he could easily be 6 to 4 on the day in a fairly weak Triumph Hurdle. If he goes straight to Cheltenham, who's going to win the Grade 1 at the Dublin Racing Festival, there might be a bit of value backing him there, whether it be Pied Piper, whether it be Vauban if he can reverse the form, whether it could be Champion Green if he was to run there, not too sure. But I just think these horses are second best to Fil Dor. He's done everything very well. I was looking for a horse to come out of the woodwork and be a real superstar and put it up to him. Nothing has. And I think Fil Dor at 3 to 1, although it's not a fancy price, we're on the second week of January, I don't think he's going to have to beat much. And In This World beat him in France. If he has a setback, I wouldn't back him first time up. I think Fil Dor will win the Triumph Hurdle at 3 to 1.
Your logic is sound. I understand where you're coming from. The fact that you're putting up a 3 to 1 shot in the second week of January is something that we'll have to talk about off air, because we've got tens of thousands of people watching this channel, Josh, and they want to be enlightened. They want you to pick up a rick in the market, and you've gone and told them a 3 to 1 shot. I do understand that what you're coming from. I think it looks a pretty average race, really, and yeah, I heard that those rumours obviously within this world. And if he suddenly doesn't run in the race, or it's a complete race against time to even get him to Cheltenham, and if it's a slightly softer ground on the Friday, I do agree. I think he could be a 5-6 to 4 shot. Which leads me on, talking about juveniles, to my final selection, and it comes in the Boodles handicap hurdle. I know we were all talking about the wise guy's horse, Britzka. I've got one in this that's a little bit out there. And because the other two were maybe slightly shorter prices, we got a 33 to 1 chance here. A filly trained by Gavin Cromwell called Vera Verso. She's ran in 2 maiden hurdles in Ireland. She's finished second to Iberique de Soy down in Cork, beaten ahead, and then finished third in the 3-year-old maiden hurdle on the 27th of December behind Akar LN. Akar LN's the type of horse that may run well in the Grade 1 at the Dublin Racing Festival. He's probably better than just your average juvenile. Both times was put into the pack, which isn't really the thing to do in juvenile maiden hurdles, but jumped nicely and has stayed very well. She's also entered in the maiden hurdle Josh was talking about with Champion Green on Monday. That could be a very interesting race. There's a few nice horses in that, all who might be looking at a Boodles down the line. I just think if she was to go very close in that, that would obviously get her qualified for a handicap, and she could sneak in off a nice enough weight. Gavin Cromwell, you have to remember, has only had 13 Cheltenham Festival runners in his career so far. He's had 3 winners and a third, so he knows how to get a good horse ready if he has the ammunition. And since the Fred Winters inception in 2005, there has been 4 fillies that have won it, so fillies can do it. I just think there's a lot to like about her. She's 33 to 1. I just think there could be a bit of money around for this horse. She seems to be working quite well at home. I know of a man that's quite closely affected with the horse, and the vibes are good. The vibes are, this is the race they'll be targeting. And I think the other filly that they have, White Pepper, who won on the weekend, I think she'll be too high in the weights to have a big chance in the Boodles. So this might be one to really keep the right side of, and I've taken 33s.
So they are now added to the Ante-Post list for the 2022 Cheltenham Festival. And before we go, we are going to give you a few best bets for this weekend. I've only got 2. Mine would be Scipion at 20 to 1 each way in the Leamington Novices Hurdle. Still a maiden, a good second in a point-to-point behind Minella Crooner. And I did think that his second on debut was encouraging. I think the step up and trip will help. Tom Lacey won the race last year with Adramel. I think they think a lot of Scipion, and I think he could go close in a very, very weak renewal of the Leamington Novices Hurdle. 20 to 1, maybe wait for him to be declared, but Scipion each way at 20s. And then the other one would be Lord Baddesley in the last at Kempton. I'm sure this horse remains well handicapped. I think Kempton will suit him down to a T, and hopefully he can get the job done. Harry Cobden, interestingly, jocked up to ride him in the last at Kempton on Saturday.
Yeah, I've got 4. Unfortunately, none of them priced up because they're all at Irish tracks between Fairyhouse and Punchestown. 1 for Fairyhouse on Saturday, the 308, a horse called Daily Present for Paul Nolan in the maiden. Hurdle was second to that horse, Hawaii Game, who's potentially going to run in the Moscow Flyer on the Sunday. That looks decent enough form, doesn't look like one of the strongest maidens. They think quite a lot of the horse, so he should go well. And a Punchestown on Sunday, 3 for the chases at the end of the card. The 250, a really average beginner's chase over 2 miles 6. Kilbury Warrior, I think she might be a little bit ahead of some of the other horses in that. It's a very average race. The 320 is the Adair Manor race, which I like Robert Tyner's Fayan. She'd be actually my nap of the week. I think she's got a fantastic chance off a very similar mark to when she won a handicap hurdle last year. Robert Tyner can do no wrong at the moment, and she'll like the conditions. And 355, looking for a bit of redemption in the amateur riders race. I was at Punchestown on John Durkin Day when John Adams tipped up in front at the last, which was absolutely devastating because I backed him at a decent price. He's going back again to Punchestown. I think Tony Quayle, the young female amateur, will ride because it's an amateur riders race. I think he's got a good chance. I'm also will be there at Punchestown on Sunday, so if anyone else is there, please come up and say hello.
And there we go. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video and this short and sweet episode of the Let's Talk Racing videos on our YouTube channel. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button. Go and listen to our audio podcast over on Racing TVs. It'll all be linked down in the description. We go through those big races at Warwick kind of race by race in slightly more detail, so if that's of interest, then do go over and listen to that. But other than that, we'll see you soon, and thank you very much.